Hey, what's up, guys? So, this is trial 1, week 2 of season 11, and I'm going against Dark Shogun. So, here's Dark Shogun stats, and here are my stats. Currently, I'm 165 in the ranking, so we'll see if I can get a winning season this week. That'd be really helpful to try to make my run for top 100. This is what I'm running on defense. So the key changes will be in room 2. I think Lady Deathstrike makes this a little more challenging if they run the Mercs in here. We'll see, but Mercs, Apoc will probably still crush it. And just trying out this Orcus North Star in 3. I lose a lot by having North Star on defense, but perhaps I gain a little bit as well having him. Or I should say, I lose a bit not having him for offense. And so there's not too much of a change till you get to room 6. So the biggest difference here is pulling Zombie Juggernaut and putting in Skrull. I think that makes it a little bit harder, as well as I think I'll maybe use Undying on offense. This is my opponent is running on defense, so it's a little tricky as to what I'm thinking about using here. I'm going to give this a little more thought. I'm chatting with Updog and Pat a little bit about what to try on room 3. And so that kind of dictates what I use in the other rooms if that's the case. So we'll see how it goes. So I ran this by Updog just to check to make sure it worked. And he was like, yeah. Because I remember we were talking about this matchup before the season. That me, Updog. I think Pat, Zero, and a bunch of us were in there. And we were definitely thinking that this counter would work. The full Illuminati, that is, against Black Knight Illuminati. Even in this room 1. And so it does, as you can see, because I get to jump on them. And having both Shuris, it does cut down on the assists, but what it does is just really kind of neutering the entire concept of the Black Knight Illuminati team. As you see, Black Knight is not really a threat. He is healing up, so it keeps me on him much longer than I thought. Surprisingly, this efficiency was much better than I thought it would be by the time this match is over. And you see here that move right there from Hank did a lot of damage. I thought more than just stunning Black Knight, I could kill him. You can see he heals up, but he's not really a threat here. And so now when I move over to Captain Britain, it's kind of ideal that the Hank is next to the Captain Britain here because it gives me a chance to kill the Hank. And so that was my thought, like do the special here. I was hoping I could target the Hank, but I couldn't. As you see, Hank dies anyway. And so maybe this would last a little bit longer if Hank was in the middle. I do understand why he has Shuri in the middle, but I think most likely if people can afford to, they'll take their Illuminati into this Black Knight Illuminati, and it will probably still win. It would just drag it out a bit longer if he had Hank in the middle. And so this is another one I ran by Updog, and he was saying probably Superior 6. And so I was thinking, well, I'll go in with Mysterio because his on spawn doesn't allow immunity. That was my thought. And I said, well, I'll also go in with Kraven because Kraven will ability block the gore. And if the Mysterio doesn't work, then he'll strip the immunity off the Gladiator. And of course, Green Goblin will be the staple here because he's going to do what Green Goblin does. Basically, the key I think here is after Kraven does his move, mostly I want to just make sure I got the blind in from the Mysterio and the ability block. And so I was like, well, I'll still target the gore when I do that. But right here, it's just about going through the sequence of events because you got to keep going on Gladiator. The idea is to have Gladiator weaken so that he doesn't pose a problem near the end and just last. And you see I'm in good shape, so now I can just go in on the team. Gore does his move, but the idea was that I was hoping the Green Goblin would live, so it's like if you can block him, then maybe you can keep Green Goblin going. I didn't realize Green Goblin's charges were cleared there anyway, so it wouldn't have mattered, but ideally Gore's blocked, so he's not going to get to use a special and probably kill someone. Thanos does his move, but since he did not do his passive first, I think I have a better chance. And so here I was deciding, well, do I do the ultimate because it does have a good impact for where I'm at in this particular battle, but I elected to do the blind, the special, and you can see that the Thanos is blinded, not the Thanos, the Ultimus. So that would have been key if Ultimus had played a part in this. So it was unfortunate that my Superior Six died. They couldn't withstand that Ultimate. I figured they couldn't, and so I'm just down to my Odin. But at the end of the day, the main thing is that Odin lives. Odin gets a chance to clean things up, and Mysterio was put out pretty early. This counter is just not efficient, but it's ideal for a clear. And so here, I ran this by Pat because my thought was, well, if I run Night Stalkers with Pov, this should work. He said in theory it should work. He just wasn't sure. I don't think anybody's tried this yet. So I was playing around with some different looks, and I decided on this placement order here. And just because my thought is Pov might die, so why not just put him behind the man thing? And so having Pav in there is kind of the equalizer for this counter. You do have to have a good sized man thing. He would have died if he were smaller, and if you want him to live. I don't know it's necessary that he lives. The counter probably will still work, but he does come in clutch with his ultimate. And so I think when you're looking at doing this counter, you got to be careful with the punch-ups and the size of your man thing. If it's a 3 red or maybe in a 4 red, it may not work as well. But you see here, the counter is working pretty well, and mostly because I had a chance to keep my my man thing alive, or going with the ultimate from Agatha. And I don't know that you necessarily have to use it there. I do like using it there for damage as well as the heal. And so once that takes place, you can see how the team just falls apart. I did not expect Skrull to die so fast. He did, so that was just made it pretty for sure that this would win after that. I've done Night Stalkers into the Spider side in War. I wasn't sure how it'd play out in the raid room, but I figured they both would get their raid buffs. And as long as I had to equalize like Pav in there, which you do need a Pav in here. Maybe North Star will work. That's something to think about if you don't have a chance to use your Pav this way. But Pav was ideal in this particular situation because of how well he helped against the Spider Society with Skrull on the team. And perhaps even with Spider Society itself, it may be ideal to run that, but if you have Spider Society, you could just mirror and you'll probably win. And so here, I had debated on a different counter that could possibly work. Updog and I have been working on, which perhaps I'll end up needing to use it another time. But I was like, well, this is 1.5 mil punch up. I've done 1.3, 1.2, and it's worked. So my thought is the Nimrod and the Oath are much bigger, but they're not diamond out like some of the ones I've gone against where it's 2 mil punch ups and it hasn't worked. I think the thing here is I wanted to focus in on the Scientist Supreme as I normally would as much as possible. Perhaps the spread would have been better right there off the bat to hit the Nimrod, and so it caused for a thought of pause because I almost lost the Gwen here. Now you do need a G19 on your big 3 in order for this to work, in my opinion. But you can see it's going pretty smoothly. I do lose Dazzler. They're low, and when I get to the Deathpool ult, it's like this is a pivotal moment on who you would kill. And my thought is it's going to have to be Nimrod because he could still have a chance to wipe this team out. And I'll take a chance on getting the Omega Sentinel out of there if that be the case. And so I decided to take out the Nimrod. And with those 3 on the right being pretty low, I was a little concerned, but not extremely concerned because New Warriors are still powerful. When it comes to Crucible, you just have to be a little bit more strategic when you're punching up this big on an Orcus team. Fortunately, it was a full Orcus. Had he had like a Mysterio or a New War in there, this would not be working. And so I thought that I would take more damage from this Omega Sentinel at this point. So taking out the Nimrod is the better move because at this point, you can see she was not taking a turn, and it was easy to clean it up for the rest of this counter. And so now I'm going into this Extreme Rogue. I don't know if it matters that he has doesn't have Cyclops in here, But for this counter, it's ideal that he's not in here because that speed up part would be a little bit of a concern. You still want to hit the Nightcrawler with your Kang. You want to put the slow on him. And this is where your ultimates comes in handy because in most cases you can kill the rogue. And so I just move back over. I target the Forge because I don't want him to get a chance to do a speed up just from taking his turn. And so then I just target Nightcrawler and then Gambit, and it's just Cabal doing their thing with not allowing the Extreme to take a turn and kind of make this counter real quick and easy. Now with this counter, this one was probably a super efficiency sink. Not that my other rooms weren't. I only had room 1 and 5 that were good efficiency. Of course, room 6 was low efficiency, but my thought here was, who do I take in? And so I said, well, I'm going to go ahead and take in this Void Knight and see if the ability block gets me a little bit of time. I did not expect Void Knight to live, and as you'll see, because it's such a long battle, because Dorm is in there, he does not live. But by clumping them together, it just makes it a lot better for me when it's time for Dokken to make his move. And there was times I was thinking like to hit the edge with Dokken. I was like, well, you can just hit the middle because they're clumped together, so it won't matter so much. Now, once Old Man Logan gets his claws out, I don't think the battle is much in jeopardy to lose. It's just that, how do you try to make this counter efficient? And maybe I did not go about it the right way. But as you can see, with them clumped together, you can just kind of hit the middle. Dokken will hit them all. And so this team is still very tanky when you look at how Darkhold is building the buffs they're getting from Agatha. And then Agatha and Moon Knight having new stats, they're just really hard to get through. So I probably could have played this a little bit different than not to get stuck behind the Wong's taunt. I don't know that it mattered much because you see there he goes stealth. And it's a debate on to hit Agatha or just go up the middle and hit Moon Knight. I like to hit Moon Knight to try to hit them all. I didn't quite do the damage I was hoping, but it still sets them up pretty well. Agatha is the problem, though, because if I wanted Void Knight to live, I would have had to really get her better under control. Even though Moon Knight is the one that killed my Void Knight, I think that the Agatha is the problem. You see how she's just tapping everybody that's falling over. If it were not for them all having their revives, then this counter would have been over. Fortunately, this team does revive, and it's nothing about the, I don't know if you want to call it Darkhold or Night Stalkers. Whichever combination this team is, they can't, not make them revive. And so that's why I think this counter can work. It's not ideal. It's just because of what I had to do in the other rooms that I had to use this team here. But fortunately, I did have them, and so you can see how they're just working it down to get the job done. Very slow, but effective.
Bye.